Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Sorry for the technical problems. Today, today's topic is worry-free mind. Big topic. Over time, what has happened with many of us is this habit to worry has kind of slowly crept in. When we see little children, they don't worry. This habit of worrying is alien for little children. And for many of us, if not all of us, there was a time in our life as a young child, this was not there. This tendency to worry, to be burdened, to sit and just break our heads and worry about something or about some person. It wasn't there. Not that life was not going on, not that we were not living, not that we were not experiencing life. All of that was going on. But something in our mindset was different at that time. And you can say maybe we are just innocent and ignorant. And that's why we're not worrying. But you can ask yourself, is it not better to not worry? Maybe that is a more healthy state. We can now say, oh, ignorant or innocent or naive, but at least that useless overburdening of our mind wasn't there. So can we retain or get back to that kind of childlike state? Not childish, and maybe also not ignorant, but a childlike attitude towards life, a childlike attitude towards things where we can just be cheered by things. Even things like fear, when children are really young, they don't have that burdening sensation of fear. Cockroach come, you want to play with the cockroach. A rat come, you play with the rat. A snake come, you want to play with the snake. That kind of attitude, not fear. something happens and something shifts at some stage in the journey of life. And then we get into this unpleasant, complicated, or negative, or even destructive emotions and habits like fear and like worry. So what is it that happens? And of course, there are different angles to look at it, and there are several factors. But one thing that happened, and that definitely from the spiritual angle, we can understand very clearly, is this identification with the body and identification with this physical personality that we kind of evolve into over time. There is this ego that is being formed based on in my case, based on Rona, and who is Rona, and in my mind, who I think Rona is, and who belongs to Rona, and what is important to Rona. And as a little child, that ego is not there, or much less, and definitely not connected with the physical personality of Rona, because child is still child. And so this ego that we create and over time grows and grows in our subconscious, that ego worries if there is something that may pose a threat to the ego of Rona. Now, if it is something Rona, someone or something that Rona is associated with, and it doesn't go in the way that the ego wants or expects it to go, or desires it to go, then there are worries. But the drama of life goes on, and it goes on the way it goes on, and many, 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 many things we cannot dictate. And one of the things we definitely cannot dictate is the behavior of others and their journey. That is not even in our hands also. But still, this ego creates a certain expectation and a certain desire, conscious or subconscious, of how they should be, how they should behave, or how things should be, or how things should evolve. And then there is worry because it might not. The drama of life is what it is, and it changes unpredictably, and it changes without asking your permission to change. It is like a roller coaster ride, and you don't know how the roller coaster move will be the next moment. And so, first of all, worry is absolutely useless because it doesn't do anything. Second thing is it causes harm to ourselves. It makes the mind weaker. It makes us emotionally weaker. And it comes from this place, this ego space, which is not healthy, which is not normal, which is not natural. And so the best way to deal with it is to drop the ego and to become egoless, to become modest and humble, and to not identify. And in the spiritual realm, we know, move into the awareness of the self as a spiritual being, not as a mortal human being. Come out of that false, limited identity of seeing the self as a human being, a mortal, with certain conditions and certain expectations and certain needs. Rona, in my case, is the part that is being acted out in this game called life. And this invisible experiencer, the invisible player, is playing the game. And Rona is a tool to play the game. And this is why children are not burdened. Children are naturally still in that attitude and that mindset of play and that mindset of game. And the ego around a physical personality is much less, or still not yet even, has not even started yet. And children play. Life is a game. Anything is a game. That mortal consciousness is not yet there. That consciousness of, oh, this can be harmed, or I can be deprived. Subconsciously, without that actually necessarily having this conscious knowledge, they just play the game. And there's not even that awareness of limitations. And so let us in the meditation come back to that essence and that awareness of self as invisible, timeless experiencer, a player, a being of consciousness, a being of light, who has come in this body, on this planet, in this physical dimension, as a guest, as a player. And the body and the physical personality and the different things around and the interactions, it is all part of the game. And the real self, the living light, is beyond harm. When the game is over, even if the body ends, even if Rona finishes, I will still be there, continuing the journey, continuing the game with another body maybe, or just go home. Play the game, but with that spiritual perspective and that spiritual consciousness. So let's meditate and in the meditation, so the aim is to reinforce that spiritual identity so that one can drop ego, that one can drop false identities. And then there won't be any mechanism even of worry. Mind will be free. And just imagine a mind free from worry, what that will be like. But the mechanism is drop the false identity, come into the spiritual identity. Okay, so as always, keep the body comfortable. And gently let us guide the mind into becoming more introvert and aware of the invisible dimension. And as if withdraw the attention from the external and withdraw from sense experiences, seeing and hearing and touching and tasting, withdraw from that. And come into that awareness of the true self, is this invisible being of consciousness, living light, timeless, being of light. And with the eye of the mind, one can perceive this invisible self and use the image of a tiny star, tiny, tiny star, sitting behind the eyes, center of the forehead, operating as if from there. This is the form of the real self, the soul. Light, immortal, free. A guest in this body, a guest on this planet, a player, one who comes to play the game of human life. And when one plays the game, it's not to get into some entanglement or to own anything or to need anything or get dependent on anything or to identify. You just come play the game, and when the game finishes, one goes home. And you leave the ball and the playing field and all the tools, you just leave them behind. So this invisible star, who is innately godlike, being of peace, a being of bliss, being of love. This is the true self, innately. This being comes to play. And this is a huge game, fascinating game. And you get a body to play with, and a role to act out, and all kinds of special effects happening. But at the end of the game, end of the play, one just withdraws and goes home. Everyone else is also an invisible player. But all that happened is we forgot. We forgot we are players. We forgot that this is a game. We start to identify, we create ego, we get into attachments. And the game changes into a war and a survival. And feelings of victim and worry and stress and fear. And then we think that is normal. Just come back to essence and aware of the true self, the eternal self, the spiritual identity. Egoless, timeless, bodiless, invisible, being of truth. The soul. Just try and grasp this mindset. And experience the independence of the self, independent from the play, independent from the body, independent from the part. It's the pure, timeless, immortal, free, living light. And as we continue the journey and continue the game, let us hold this in our awareness and repeatedly remind ourselves, invisible player, this beautiful tiny star playing the game of life. Thank you. Have a good day.